Hello, everyone. My name is Kelly Aycock. I'm an elementary school teacher, and I am here to provide the data overview for Tessa Hall Elementary School. We first want to start with the purpose of this presentation. This presentation will show the results of the Georgia Milestone Assessment for grades 3 through 5 at Tessa Hall Elementary School over the course of 3 school years, including 2021 school year, 2022, and 2023. The purpose of this presentation is to analyze the school's demographic data and the student performance data on the assessment over a 3 year time span and identify strengths and areas in need of improvement. The action plan will determine the next steps of new resources or instructional strategies that will be needed to be put in place to achieve growth in the next coming school years. The presentation is intended for the school improvement team, and that includes the administrators, instructional coaches, grade level, and department chairs. This presentation will highlight the academic strengths that we've noticed over the last few years, and then it will also identify and present questions about the top two areas of improvement in the data that we are analyzing. Also, through this presentation, we hope to present opportunities for growth in teaching and in learning. I want you to think about these questions as we are diving into our data analysis. So, here are some questions that I would like you to consider while we look at the data. Question 1 is, what are we doing successfully? 2, how could we improve on our success? 3, based on who we are serving, who isn't learning, and why? And 4, what action steps can we take for those students? And then lastly, how will we know when we are successful? So first, I would like to bring your attention to this overview of student diversity in our school. One thing I would like to point out about this overview is that 93.4% of our students are in minority enrollment. And then we have a majority of our students that are Black and African American. And then we have 69% of economically disadvantaged students at Tessa Hall. This slide is another view of student demographics and enrollment over the last 3 years. As you can see in each table, it shows you each group of students that make up our school and the amount of them. So what I notice here is that we have, again, that majority of students that are African American, going from 634 to 684 in 2022, and then 747 in students that are African American in 2023. We also do have other races at our school that include white, Hispanic, multiracial, Asian, Pacific Islander, and American Indian. Those are kind of the fewest. I would say we do have we in 2021 had 73 Hispanic, 94 in 2022, and then up to 100 in 2023. And then we also do have some multiracial students as well. Over to the right, you'll notice that we do have some different groups of students: economically disadvantaged, limited English proficiency, not economically disadvantaged, and students with and without disabilities. We do have a good number of students that are economically disadvantaged, as I've mentioned. In 2021, we had 515. In 2022, we had 669. And then 2023, we had 805. So you do see an increase in that group of students. We also do have a large amount of females in our school. We went from 447 up to 495 within the last 3 years. And then for male students, 398 up to 456. So we do have also had a major increase in the whole population of Tessa Hall. Also, you can notice on the bottom, there are some different programs that we have in showing the percentages of enrollment. So for EIP students, we had 18 in 2021, 29% in 2022, and then 27% in 2023. And then we also had students that are ESOL. Not a large population of our school, but we do have those students. We do have students that are in special education, and we do have some gifted students, and that percentage went from 6.7 to 11.9%. So we have seen an increase in that group as well. This is the teacher demographics for the last 3 school years. If you'll notice, in 2021, we had a majority of teachers who had their bachelor's and master's degree, mostly female, and 3 male in 2021. And our majority of our staff is either African American or white, and we do have a few Hispanic teachers as well. In 2022, same thing. We have noticed a bit of an increase in teachers who have their masters, and um, we have about the same amount of teachers overall. A few more teachers than we did in 2021, and then in 2023, same thing. We do have another increase in teachers receiving their master's degree. Also, an increase in teachers who have their specialist degree. Most 40 African American teachers and 14 white teachers, and 2 Hispanic teachers, 1 Asian. And then we also do have a lot of teachers that have anywhere from 1 to 30 years of experience. So the data shows that, or the table shows that on the bottom of each set of data. Before diving into our Georgia milestone data, I want to point out the student performance areas. So we have 4 areas: beginning learners, where the students do not demonstrate proficiency in the knowledge and skills necessary at the grade level; developing, where students demonstrate partial proficiency in the knowledge and skills necessary at the grade level; and then we have proficient, where students are showing proficiency in the knowledge and skills necessary at their grade level. And then we have distinguished learners who are demonstrating advanced proficiency in the knowledge and skills necessary at the grade level. Students who are proficient and distinguished learners are very much prepared for the next grade level. And then students who are beginning and developing will need additional support to be successful at the next grade level. Here is the data for the 2021-2022 Georgia milestones. So if you see, we have most of our students in each subject area in the beginning learner stage, and then we have quite a bit of students in the developing learner stage. So we really want to take those students from those performing levels up to proficient, and we do have a percentage of students that are proficient, and then we do have a very small percentage of students that are distinguished learners as well. This data shows an overview of students that took the assessment for this school year in grades 3 through 5. This data is from the year of 2022 to 2023 for students in grades 3 through 5. So what you will notice about this data is that in ELA, the beginning level percentage of students goes from 47% in the last year to 50%. And then you also notice in the developing, it went from 35% to 27%. And then in the proficient level, we actually did see an increase of 14% to 17%. In math, we did notice some decreases in the beginning level, 51% to 48%, which is great. And then we saw an increase of 11% to 18% in the proficient level. So we do see some increases in achievement in math, which is great, from the 2021 school year to 2022. And then unfortunately, we see a significant increase in the beginning level learners of science from 54% to 70% this year, which is definitely a concern. But, definitely want to keep our attention on this so that we can improve instruction and eventually improve the student achievement. This data is from the most recent year of Georgia milestone achievement data from students grades 3 through 5. Um, One thing we can say that is about this is that in the beginning level, students are at 42%, and they started at 47% in the year of 2021. So we are seeing um, a bit of a decrease there. But we would want a little bit more, but um, some growth is better than none. And then we did see an increase from 17% of proficient learners to 20% in this data that is shown here. In math, we have a 51% in 2021 to 39% for the beginning level learners, which is another area of improvement. And then we also have that developing area that went from 30% in 2021 to 42%. So over the last 3 years, we did see some growth in math and ELA, but would definitely need to try to see how we can improve on that growth. And then science, went from um, that 70% from the last year to 52% in the beginning level, which is great that we had that significant decrease. And then the developing level went from 23% to 34%. And then we do see some increases in that proficiency as well. So we would like to see more students distinguish in this area, really in all areas. So our main goal is to push these students out of these beginning and developing levels up to proficiency. So here is another overview of the last year's data. And what it shows is kind of more of specifically showing that third graders had the strongest performance, and showing that 29% of the students met the standard in ELA, and 35 of the students met in math in third grade. And then also in ELA, fifth grade is showing lower than peers, and then 15% of the students met the standard. So we do need to see a bit more growth and achievement for fifth grade. And then same thing in math. It's a little bit lower, where only 6% of students have met the standard based on the last year's math achievement scores. Here is another data overview for this last year's assessment, and it shows that 376 students took the math assessment, and 79 students performed at or above grade level, and a total of 377 students took the GMAS in ELA, and 84 students performed at or above grade level. And again, it shows the students in third grade that had the top performing scores, and 112 students in grade 3, 39 students, which is 25%, performed at or above grade level. So we want to see the same thing in fourth and fifth that we're seeing in third grade. Based on the data, our strengths in reading, we have some strengths where the students were growing in proficiency from 14% up to 20%. And then this is due to Amira, which is a platform that we adopted in 2023. So I think that has definitely gone contributed towards the achievement in reading. And then in math, we had 35% developing, and then went up to 42%, as I mentioned. And then we had a 2% increase in proficient learners from 2021 to 23. And then a large decrease in that beginning level learner from 59% to 39.8%, which is amazing. Based on this data, our main areas of improvement needed are reading, where we want to get students reading at or above grade level. 75.6 of students in grades 3 through 5 performed at the beginning and developing level, which we want to see a lot lower percentage of that. We want to see more students achieving in the proficiency. So that is definitely an area of improvement. Science, we have little to no distinguished learners based on the data shown. And then we have 86.5% of students in grades 3 through 5 performing at beginning developing in science. And then lastly, math, we only have those in grade 5, 6% meeting the standard. So we definitely have all those areas that are needed for improvement. So what are the next steps? So one thing that we can do to work towards better achievement in the classroom for the teachers and the students would be to incorporate success criteria into the instructional practice. So this is where it is a student-friendly wording that gives students an understanding of what they need to do to be successful, rather than just having it on the board and them not understand what they need to do to be successful. Another action plan would be to implement Amira, which is that reading platform, and require students to engage in this for 45 minutes a week and encourage teachers to implement it into their small groups. Progress Learning is another great platform to incorporate into instruction. It has practice questions and lessons that align with standards. For science, day-by-day lessons with hands-on experiments for students that will increase their engagement and hands-on and hopefully lead to more mastery. Having the STEM lab as specials and providing students with opportunities to do STEM activities. And then for math, integrate the Georgia DOE Inspire learning plans, where students will learn concepts constructively and relate learning concepts to real-world scenarios. So this is something that we have just now started to implement, and hopefully that will lead to more success and more proficiency on the next Georgia milestone assessment. Lastly, we want to encourage those fifth graders to use manipulatives in addition to the learning plans that they're doing, because that will increase more hands-on and more engagement and more mastery. As we reflect on the data and the analyzation of the data, I want to leave you with these questions about what we can do to drive our next steps. How can we ensure growth and success? What is the plan for students who are not learning? As we can see from our data, we really need a plan for those students who are still at that beginning level of learning. How can we use this data to make adjustments to our instruction? What intentional professional learning can we provide for our staff to incorporate more instructional strategies to increase engagement and mastery? What can we do for diverse learners or students who are not learning, and how can we measure their growth? And then lastly, how can we hold students more accountable for their performance? How can we help them set goals for their learning, because ultimately that will help them understand what they need to do to be successful, and how they can increase their own achievement levels. I hope this presentation was beneficial and hopefully will encourage instructional conversations that you will have moving forward. And thank you so much for your time.